Alright, we've got another little project, of course, going over local storage again. As you can see here, we have a place to register a student name, a course number, and a room. We've got two buttons, a register button and a clear data. And below it you can see where it's actually storing student name, course number, and room. I've got Jenny Tucker, Bible verses, course number B345, in room 234 GG. These are all made up things, of course. Gabriel Gerhardt, trial lawyers, random. I just smashed on the keys there. In the distance room, Sammy Swanson, food supplies, FS 234, dining hall 27, and Kathy Copley, swimming, course number S115, in pool 12. So I'll show you a new one here. Alright, let's go with Bob Barker because he's a popular guy. The course name, gaming, course number G333, and in room TV 5. Register, and as you can see, the very last person that we registered shows up here at the top, Bob Barker's gaming class. So we have the name Bob Barker, but we also concatenated an apostrophe S so that it would show as Bob Barker's, and gaming is the class. As you can see down here, we typed in gaming, but we concatenated a space and the word class to display up here at the top. When you refresh your page, it stays. When you close out of it and then go back in to dynamicstorage.html yet again, tomorrow, next week, whatever, the last thing that you entered is going to be what shows up here, Bob Barker's gaming class. Now, if we clear the data, you need the password to clear all data. So here I've implemented a strategy to not let the user just say, are you sure you want to do it? Yes or no. We actually have to have a password. In this case, the code shows us password as the placeholder, but I also coded password to be the password. So if I click cancel, it does not delete anything. If I click OK, boom, it deleted everything. So let me try something again. Let me just random blah blah blah, nobody cares. Register this, just so that you see the function in action. Now we want to clear data. Now if I key in something different for the password other than what I've coded it to be and click OK, nothing happens. It doesn't remove anything. Clear data again, cancel, nothing gets removed. Clear data again. If I allow password to stay in here and click OK, it actually gets rid of the data. So this way you're giving a little protection over your data being deleted to some special password of your choosing. Alright, let's look at the code. It's pretty, we've only got 3 files here. We have our CSS for our styles. We have our HTML for the actual web page code, and then we have our JS for our JavaScript action. So right click, edit with Notepad++. Let's look at all 3 of these. Let's look at the CSS first. It's just the styling. It's a nice thing to get over with. For the body, we have a margin set to 0 pixels and a padding set to 0 pixels. For an element that is given the ID ALL, we have the border of 20 pixels, red ridge, border radius set to 20 pixels, width set to 350 pixels, height set to 400 pixels, padding set to 10 pixels, margin 0 auto, and overflow set to auto. After that, we have an element that is given the ID register box, and for that we have border set to thick green solid, width set to 200 pixels, margin 10 auto, padding 5 pixels, and background color is set to tan. For the element that's given the ID enrolled, we have background color set to tan and padding set to 5 pixels. For table headers, we have background color set to gold, border set to thick gold ridge, border radius set to 10 pixels, and padding set to 3 pixels. For the element that we gave the ID Zoozle, the border is set to thick blue solid, padding is set to 5 pixels, margin is set to 5 pixels. A button element is given a width of 48%. An input element is given a width of 98%. For the element that's given the ID of add, we set the color to white, the background color to lime. The background image is set to linear gradient, and then in parentheses we have to bottom, comma, RGBA, and in parentheses 0, 200, 0, 0.6, comma, and then another color, RGBA, and in parentheses 0, 100, 0, 1. So you can see we have the linear gradient is going to have the direction top to bottom. And here's the two colors that we are going to use in our gradient. RGBA values is our red, green, blue values. And I forgot what the A stands for. That's awful, but I can't think of it right now. All right, so let's go to the next thing. The next element that has the ID of clear. Color is set to white, background color is set to aqua, background image is set to linear gradient. Again, we're doing linear gradients, and to bottom, RGBA 200, 0, 200, 0.6, and RGBA 200, 0, 200, and 0.2. I can take the background image linear gradient instead of using the RGBA values. I can take this and give you another way to do it if you don't want to use the RGBA. We can just take this and just put a color value in there. So maybe we'll have blue at the top and maybe we'll have yellow at the bottom. I believe that's how that'll come out. And I can comment this out, although that doesn't look like it's commenting out. Let's see. I think I forgot how my comment in CSS has to be. Well, this is a lot of screwing around. I don't think that's right either. Alright, let's try this. I know that this is setting the clear button, a button with the ID of clear. So let me run this and see if I've changed. See how the clear button has like a darker blue at the top and the gradient goes from top to bottom and then we get the lighter blue? This is what I prefer, using this particular RG red, green, blue value. But I wanted to show you. Oh, it worked. See, this is how you can do it if you want it to be blue at the top and then end up with yellow at the bottom, or whatever colors you want to do. That's just showing you how you can take a button and make it look a little 3D by using linear gradient. Let's get rid of this. All right. But I don't prefer that, so I'm going to take this comment off and go back to the blues that I used. I like that better. Okay, and then finally we have H1 and H2. They are both given padding of 0 pixels and margin of 0 pixels. And this is our H1, our first heading, with the size of 1, and the smaller size, the H2, is this one right here. Alright, so that's all of the CSS. Let's get out of there. And I named it dynamicstorage.css, and the HTML is dynamicstorage.html, and the JavaScript is dynamicstorage.javascript, just because I didn't feel like being creative with the names. I gave them all the same names, just different extensions. Alright, so there's the CSS. We don't need to look at that anymore. Let's look at the, let's go ahead and look at the web page. Opening HTML, starts on line 1. And it's not a very long web page, actually. It's pretty simple. On line 38, we have our ending HTML tag. Here's our opening and closing head tags. So the head goes between 2 and 6. We've got our first link right here that points to our external CSS style sheet that I already read the code to. Link type equals text /CSS, rel equals style sheet, href equals dynamic storage.css. Because all three of these files are in the same folder, it's really easy to point to. You just point to the name. After that, we've got our title. In between the title tags, it says Dynamic Storage Student Page. And that's what you see up here in the Browsers tab. Then we have the pointer to our external script. Script type equals text / JavaScript source equals, again, I named it all the same, Dynamic Storage, and just gave it its different extension, .js. And there's the ending script tag. So there's the pointer to that external JavaScript that I'm going to read last. It's this one right here. I'm going to read it last. And there's the end of the head. Okay, so that's all that you get in your head tags. Now let's check out the body. Here's our opening body tag, and here's our most external div. All the other divs are nested inside. So this outermost div that has an ID set to all, which I already told you how the CSS styled all, starts at 9, goes all the way to line 36. So it's like the outer eggshell to all the other nests. And as you can see, after this closing div tag, we have our closing body, our closing HTML, and that's everything that you get for the web page. So inside of the outer div, we have another div. This div is called has a class set to welcome, and that div goes from line 11 to 14. And let's look at what's inside of this div. We have an H1, which is our uppermost header right here that says student page. H1 ID equals title, class equals title, align equals center, title equals blueberry is the secret password. Okay, that's my little inside baloney, because originally when I did my JavaScript, I didn't have password. When you hit clear data here, I didn't use the default password here, the placeholder, as the password. I used blueberry, and I thought, well, what if I forget what it is? So I put a title in here in my H1 tag, which this is just for practice purposes. If I hover over the H1 tag, you see this little tooltip. Blueberry is the secret password. You get that anytime you give an element a title. Then when you hover over that element, you get this little tooltip that pops up that can tell you anything you want. So that was just for silliness, I guess, or practice purposes. Then in between the H1 opening and closing H1 tags, we have the words student page. And this is actually what you see right there. After the H1, we have an H2, which is a smaller header. And this has an ID set to classy. Align is set to center, and the words that you physically see on the page are class schedule. And again, because it's an H2, it's slightly smaller than the H1. All right, so there's the div that holds those two headers. Now let's get to the next section after that. We have a div with an ID set to register box. It starts on line 16, it goes all the way to line 23. Now let's look at everything inside of this div. We have a button. The first button has an ID set to add, and it has an on-click event set to add course. This is a JavaScript function that we're going to go over once we get out of this HTML file and look at our external dynamic storage.js JavaScript file. We're going to see an add course function. So when you click this particular button, and also on the face of the button it says register, that word is in between the opening tag for the button and the closing tag for the button, has the word register. So when you see right here this green button that says register, when we click this, it's running the add course function. The next thing is another button, and this button has the ID set to clear, and its onClick event is going to call a function called clear data, which again we will see when we look at the JavaScript file. The words on the face of the button are clear data, and there's the closing button tag. After the two buttons we have right here, we have an input. So here, highlighted input, type is set to text, ID is set to student name, and the placeholder is set to student name. The placeholder is what we see in here, where it just lets you know what to, it's kind of like a label, but instead of a label being on the outside of a text area, it's on the inside, and you just type over it. It just lets you know what this text area is used for. Here's the next input. Again, type equals text, ID equals course name, placeholder equals course name. And as you can see, the placeholder says course name. The next input, again, type equals text, ID equals course number, placeholder equals course number. And the fourth input, type is set to text again, ID here is set to room, and placeholder equals room. The IDs we use in our JavaScript: student name, course name, course number, and room. Those are all important for us to use in our JavaScript for the action. Okay, then there's the ending div tag. So let's go down to the next little section in this web page. We have another div here. This ID, I gave a weird name, Zoozle. The line is set to center. And as you can see, that starts from line 25 to 34. Inside this div, we've got a table. And the table starts at line 26 and ends at line 33. So you see the nesting action going on. So for the opening table tag, we have table with an ID set to enrolled. A line is set to center. After that opening table tag, we have a table row tag that has an ID set to title row. And that table row goes from line 27 to line 32. And inside that table row tag, we have 4 table headers. Here's the first table header. In between the table header tags, you see student name. And that's down here in this gold rounded, it's like an orange color. It says student name. Here's the table header that says course. And as you can see, it's right here, right next to it. Next table header says course number. The next table header after that says room. Then we have our closing table row tag, our closing table tag, and our closing div tag. So that's that whole div that's nested. And here's our outermost div, the closing tag for that, closing body tag, closing HTML. All right, so we're all done with the actual HTML code. Let's close out of that. Now let's look at the JavaScript to see how we can make our page save this information using local storage. First thing that we've got going on is this first statement on line 1. We are creating an array. We're giving it the name course array, and the symbol for an emptied array is the straight bracket. So we have var course array equals empty straight brackets, and you finish the sentence or the statement with a semicolon. The next statement that we have right here is window.unload equals init. So when this window loads, it's going to call the init function, which is going to be further down. We'll look at the init function further down. Let's look at the function called add course first. And this is what happens when you click the register button here. It calls the add course function, which starts at line 5 and goes all the way down to line 52. And as you can see, we've got some stuff commented out, stuff that I was practicing. Since it's commented out, it's not necessary. Okay, so we start function add course, empty parentheses, opening curly brace. I commented this out, so you don't need to worry about typing this in. This was for my testing purposes. But we do have to create this object here. We have an object called course. So var course equals starts it off, and then you've got an opening curly brace that will block all of these statements inside, which creates the object called course. The first thing that we put in this object is from here to there. Student name colon document.getElementById parentheses and double quotes student name dot value. After that we have a comma, and we're going to do something similar but using this. Name colon document.getElementById parentheses and double quotes course name dot value. After that we have another comma. We're going to do it again. Number colon document.getElementById parentheses double quotes course number dot value, comma, and then the final one, room colon document.getElementById parentheses and double quotes room dot value. Since we don't have anything else in this object, we don't need another comma after this. We just need to close up our curly braces that enclose all of these things in our object, and then finish off the statement with a semicolon. So that's that whole thing. We're creating this object called course. Okay, here's a note. This is a comment. This is not being executed. It's just a comment so that we understand what the next set of the next statements do. We have an if condition here, and this condition must be true in order to continue. So we have our keyword if. We're going to check a condition. The condition is going to go in these parentheses here, and the condition is a little bit long, but it's not difficult. If course.studentName does not equal an empty string, and course.name does not equal an empty string, and course.number does not equal an empty string, and course.room does not equal an empty string. What this is requiring is that none of these areas here may be empty. None of them may be left blank. If we put in a name, George Benson. Whoa, I can type. And the course name, we have music. We do not have a course number, we just have a random room. And then we hit the register button, nothing happens. Nothing happens because this if condition, everything in here, because we're using the and symbols, means all of these things have to be other than empty in order for us to go down here and execute the statements that are in these curly braces. So this is basically keeping us from entering half-ass information. You know, you want all the information before you're able to register this student. So once you put in a course number and then you hit register, it will add this student. Then and only then will it add this student. Okay, so I've showed you how the condition works. Let's, now that we've provided all the condition and we are going to execute the following statements, let's show you how that worked. You got your opening curly brace, and the first line of code we have, I guess I could make spaces between all of the statements. All the statements end with a semicolon, so it might make it easier to understand if I do that. Make spaces between all the statements so that you don't think all of this is one big long like paragraph with no end. Alright, so let's go bit by bit. If all of that's true, the first thing that happens is this. Course array, which is the name of the array that we created, equals json.parse, and then in parentheses we have localstorage.getItem, and we want to get item from what's in the parentheses and double quotes, which is course. The double pipe symbol here means or, and this means an empty array, the empty straight brackets. Okay. After that statement we have course array.push parentheses course semicolon. After that we have this localstorage.setItem, In parentheses, we have course in double quotes, comma, JSON.stringify, and in parentheses, course array, and then close up the outer parenthesis as well, and end that statement with a semicolon. After that statement, we have this one. Course array equals localstorage.getItem, and in parentheses and double quotes, we have course, end that statement with a semicolon. After that, we have this. Course array equals JSON.parse, parentheses, course array, semicolon. All right, now we have a for loop. And as you can recall, for loops mean we're going to do a certain set of instructions a looped number of times. So we have our for keyword, and in the parentheses we have what's going to the things that we're going to do over and over again. We have the I starting off as 0, and I is going to be like our counter. Then as long as I is less than course array.length, as long as that's true, we're going to increment I. We're going to bump it up by 1. So it starts at 0. We're going to do all this stuff inside the for loop. It's going to come back up here, and it's going to change 0 to 1. And as long as 1 is less than the course array's length, it's going to keep doing it again and again and again. So let's check out what is it going to do again and again and again. Well, the first thing after this opening curly brace and the loop starts on line 29. Here's the opening curly brace. Let's see where the closing one is. All the way on the end of 53, which again, you see a bunch of stuff commented out here, so you don't have to worry about those lines. All right, in the first thing in our for loop, we have var row equals enrolled.insert row parentheses 1 semicolon. Next we have var cell1 equals row.insert cell parentheses 0 and parentheses semicolon, and we're going to do that for each of our cells. Var cell2 equals row.insert cell parentheses 1 semicolon. Var cell3 equals row.insert cell parentheses 2 semicolon. Var cell4 equals row.insert cell parentheses 3 semicolon. Okay, so we've done those 4 cells. Then we're going to do this. Cell1.innerHTML equals course array. I'm going to say index 1 because in the straight brackets here with the I, that's basically our index. Our index starts at 0, and each iteration of the loop, I will change its value. The first iteration of the loop, it's going to be 0. The second iteration of the loop is going to be 1, and so on and so forth until we loop through everything in the array that we're creating. So course array index I dot student name semicolon. Then we're going to do the same thing with name. Cell2.innerHTML equals course array index 1.name semicolon. We're going to do the same thing for number. Cell3.innerHTML equals course array index I.number. And then finally, cell4.innerHTML equals course array index I.room. So we've established that the loop is going to affect our student name, our number, and our room. You don't have to worry about any of this. It was for testing purposes only. So you can go straight from that cell4.innerHTML equals course array index I.room all the way to your ending curly brace right there to end that for loop. All right, the next thing we're going to do is, this is a note, a comment to ourselves to let us know what the following line does. And it's going to keep data from repeating by using next line. Keep data from repeating by using next line. I don't really know how to describe that, but if I don't have this window.location.reload parentheses true, if I do not have this, my code runs buggy, and I can comment this out and show you how weird it runs. So I'm going to take out line 57. Let me get rid of these dots so that I can clearly see what I'm working on, so I can take that comment back off because I need that. I need that reload there. Let's refresh the Notepad++, and let's refresh the page. Now I'm going to add someone new. I'm going to say girl A, course name math, course number 123M, room 123, period, I guess, I don't know, whatever. Let's register. Now watch what happens. We've got George Benson twice with the girl A. Alright, now I want to register someone else. And on top of that, girl A is still up here as well. It didn't empty out my places to type here. So in order for me to change this, I have to just do a highlighted back up and retype over that, and that's not cool. So now we have girl B, English, 345E, and blah blah blah, you know, whatever. Register. Now look at the weirdness. Now we have George Benson, girl A, George Benson, girl A, girl B. So now we're getting some strange looping thing going on. And again, in order to add another student with another class, I have to come in here and back out of all this. Well, that's just junk. So therefore, when I put this window.location.reload true here before the end of the if conditions curly brace, that stopped that repetition. As a matter of fact, just by putting this here and refreshing the page, now you only see the three that I created: George Benson, girl A, and girl B. You don't see any of the redundant repeating students. So that's important. Alright, there's the end of the if. Here's the end of the function, the end of the add course function. Your closing curly braces are exceptionally important, or your whole code will not run properly. Alright, now let's look at the next function called clear data. This is the function that's going to run when you click this clear data button. And that's a pretty short function. It goes from line 63 to line 69. And we've got two statements here. Here's the first statement, and here's the second statement. The first statement, var secret password equals prompt, and in parentheses and double quotes you have the string, you need the password to clear all data. After that string in double quotes we have a comma, and then we have the word password in double quotes. Now if I click clear data, this is the prompt dialog box that pops up. You need the password to clear all data shows at the top here of the prompt dialog, and in this is my placeholder, if you will, that I put as the word password. I could put input password here. It's just basically, again, it's like a placeholder. It's just giving the user an instruction. Input password here, or type password here, whatever you want. I don't like it long like that, but if you are going to use it and expect a variety of users to understand what it means, you might want to make it a little more explanatory. Is that even a word? Explanatory? Alright, after this pops up, we need to establish a password match in order to make the OK button do what we want the clear data to do. So we have a condition. So we have the if keyword and a condition in parentheses. If the variable that we created up here, secret password, if that variable is equal to, voila, I just happened to use the same thing, password. If that's true, then we're going to execute the statements inside of these curly braces. We have two statements that will execute. The first statement, localstorage.clear, will clear everything that we've saved. The second statement that we have is we're using that window.location.reload parentheses true statement again. Alright, again, this is just a placeholder. This doesn't really mean anything, but this is the important thing. So this is what I think what I had earlier. What did I say? Blueberry? If the secret password is equal to blueberry, if you refresh this, hit the clear data. You need the password to clear all data. Password, okay, so let's guess that password is the password. It will not work now. Okay, did not clear anything. Let's try it again. Clear data, Bluebird. Hit OK. Oh, it wasn't Bluebird, it was Blueberry. So now let's go in here and Blueberry. It's got to be spelled exactly. And because it matched at this point, it executed these two statements because we gave the variable secret password the value of blueberry here, okay? Or whatever you want the password to be. Whatever you want the password to be, you're going to put right there. Fill in for that. Alright, so there's the end of that if condition, and here's the end of our clear data function. Let's go down a little further. We have a function called create schedule course. That starts on line 74, and it takes us all the way down to line 100. Alright, the first line, the first statement that will execute when create schedule course, it's got a parameter of course in the parentheses. The first line of code is var table equals document.getElementById, parentheses and double quotes, enrolled, end it with a semicolon. The next statement is var row equals document.createElement, and in parentheses and double quotes tr, which stands for our table row. Then we've got each of these statements for the cells, cell 1 through cell 4. Var cell 1 equals document.createElement, parentheses, double quotes, td. So now we're creating the table data cells. In the table row, we've got the table row here, the table data cell. Cell 1 is going to be the table data cell for student name. The next one is for course, the next one's for course number, the next one's for room. So here's the next one. Var cell 2 equals document.createElement, and again we're creating another table data cell. Var cell 3 equals document.createElement, parentheses, double quotes, td. And finally, var cell 4 equals document.createElement, parentheses, double quotes, td. So we created our fourth table data cell for that row via JavaScript. Alright, then we are going to do things with the inner HTML of each of those cells. We've created them, and now we want to set the course name, which is what you're typing. I'm sorry, this first one. The course dot student name is what you type in right here. Rosie O'Donnell. I have no idea how to spell that. Okay, so the course dot student name, which I just typed in here, is going to be the cell 1 dot inner HTML of down here. I'm sorry. Yeah, under student name, it will populate down here when we register. We're going to do the same thing for all the other ones. The course name, acting, the course name is going to be represented, is going to represent itself in the cell 2.innerHTML, which is going to be down here under this heading. It says course. The course number that we put in here, which who knows what it is, will go under course number. So course.number, we're going to assign that to cell 3.innerHTML. And then finally, the course room, acting room 1. What we type in here is going to be assigned to cell 4.innerHTML, which is going to go down here under our room heading up there. So then we have row.append child cell 1, row.append child cell 2, and notice cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, and cell 4 are all in parentheses. Row dot append child cell 3, row dot append child cell 4. After that, we have table dot append child, in parentheses we have row. Okay, now we've got another set of statements that I should break up for visual acuity purposes. All right. So after the table appends the rows, we will have this. Document.query selector. In parentheses and single quotes, I have .welcome title. That means class welcome, the element that has class welcome, and ID of title, .inner HTML. Something is going to be assigned to that. On the right-hand side of the equals, which means assignment, course.studentName plus, in double quotes, we have an apostrophe S. So whatever I type as the student's name, which is Rosie O'Donnell, we are going to concatenate an apostrophe S. So it's going to then turn into Rosie O'Donnell's, and that's going to, instead of it saying student page right here, it's going to say Rosie O'Donnell's there. We're going to do a few other things. Here, on the right-hand side of the assignment, we have the color red. Okay, we have red in double quotes. On the left-hand side of that assignment equals, we have document.query selector. And again, in parentheses and single quotes, we have .welcome title. So that's the same thing that we were targeting here. The element that was using the class welcome and ID of title, it's the same thing right here. .welcome title means class welcome, ID title. .style.color. So where it says student page is going to say Rosie O'Donnell's, and we are also going to colorize Rosie O'Donnell's to red. Currently, the default is black. It says student page and it's black. Let's go to the next thing. On the right-hand side of the assignment equals, we have cursive in double quotes. As you can see, equals cursive. On the left-hand side, what are we going to assign cursive to? Well, document.query selector, parentheses, and single quotes, .welcome title. So we're still dealing with the same thing, student page up here. We've changed it from student page to Rosie O'Donnell's. We've changed it from black to red, and we're also going to give it a font family of cursive. So document.query selector, parentheses, quotes, .welcome title, .style, .font family equals cursive. Alright, so then what we're going to do next after we do that. On the right-hand side of the equals, we have course.name plus class. So the name that we put in, Rosie O'Donnell, we're going to concatenate in the, we're using the plus to concatenate the word class. So Rosie, let's see, welcome plus, oh no, I'm sorry. This was welcome plus title, so that's going up here, Rosie O'Donnell's. Down here, it's in class welcome, we have the ID of classy. That's that. Now we're going to target the H2. So instead of saying class schedule, it's going to say not Rosie O'Donnell, but the course name, which is acting. The course name is acting. And then we're going to concatenate the word class. So instead of this saying class schedule, it's going to say acting class. And just like we changed the color, we're going to change the color here. So we have document.query selector in parentheses and quotes dot welcome, which means the element that has class welcome, and the ID called classy dot style dot color equals blue. So this is going to go from black font class schedule to blue font acting class. So this will say Rosie O'Donnell's in red, acting class in blue. And then underneath this area, we're going to have all the stuff that we typed in here is going to populate underneath here. All right, and there is the closing curly brace for create schedule parentheses course function. We're almost done with the JavaScript. Here we have a function called getCourseArray, and it goes from line 117 to 123. All of this is commented out code for my practice purposes, so it's not important. This is what's important. So for function getCourseArray, which has nothing in the parentheses here, empty parentheses, in between our curly braces, we have one single statement. Return JSON.parse, and then in parentheses we have localstorage.getItem, and in parentheses and double quotes we have course. And then you close up both of your parentheses, your inner parenthesis and your outer parenthesis before your ending semicolon. Then close up your outer curly brace for the functions, the whole functions block. Now, last but not least, let's look up that init function that happens when the window loads. So we have function init, nothing in the parentheses. There's our opening and closing curly braces. So the initialization of the page when the window first opens is we have this statement, var course array equals get course array. So the calling of this function get course array is being assigned to this variable called course array. Then we have a for loop. So the keyword for, and then inside of our parentheses we have I equals 0. So here again is our counter. I represents the counter. It's initially set to 0. As long as I is less than courseArray.length, as long as that's true, we're going to increment the value of the I counter. It's going to go from 0 to 1 to 2 for as many times as it needs to until we fill up our array. And inside of that, after you look at that for loops condition and counter and all that, we have a single statement. No, I'm sorry, we have two statements. We have two statements. The first thing is var course equals course array index I semicolon, and then here we're calling the function create schedule with the single parameter of course. So here we're calling that one function. All right. And then you close up your for loops curly brace, go down a little bit further, and you close up the function init. It's the functions curly brace. This is the for loops curly brace. This is the functions curly brace. And that's everything in the JavaScript that creates this little project. It's really simple. It's nothing too exciting. But instead of this being a student page, you can change this to anything else you want. You don't have to have it about this. You can have it about something else that you wanted to save. Again, let's register it. You see Rosie O'Donnell's in red, acting class in blue. This all clears out so that we can keep typing in more students with more course information, and it just adds all these things in the list. All right, with that, I'm going to finish up this video and read some of this library book that I got. It's called The Shape of Water. There's also a movie coming out, and it must be pretty popular because I am like 200 and a waiting list of over 400 people. So I'm looking forward to reading the book and watching the movie.